sort of chills sort of running down my spine. This show, I want to set it up. I want to set it up properly. This particular show, The Acolyte, is set in what I will call the Renaissance of the Jedi, the so-called High Republic. The show focuses on the emergence of dark side powers as the golden age of the Jedi draws to a close. So in the Star Wars timeline, The Acolyte takes place nearly a century. I think it's precisely 80 years before the rise of Emperor Palpatine. And I see a lot of potential for this particular show. So, you know, this is likely the most significant time shift in the live action Star Wars universe that we've seen ever, right? So The Acolyte really represents one of the bigger risks that Disney is going to take creatively on Disney Plus with this particular show, and probably with the franchise overall. So no longer are we going to be sort of reliant on Skywalkers or a particular time frame that we're sort of locked into. Now we're going to a century in the past of the Star Wars timeline. I am super anxious to talk about this particular show. The Grandmaster reached out to me personally, and he said, "You must make it happen that I am the first of the champions to sound off on The Acolyte. And sir, your wish is our command. Please."
Yeah, thank you. Since it's a bit new compared to the other time, the time we have seen in live action Star Wars, I did some digging. What I read is that this show is going to be from a female perspective, the rise of the dark side of the Force. So yeah, there's a good chance that we will see the first hints of Palps showing up, at least that Force. And yeah, I've been also checking the showrunner for this particular movie series. Leslie Heatland, I think she is called. She did a show on Netflix called Russian Doll. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's a very short series, 8 episodes, half an hour per episode, but it's, in my view, brilliantly written. If you watch the complete show, it all ties together at certain points, it all comes back again. It's hilariously funny, if you're into that kind of humor, at least. I am, by the way. And if she can just bring a hint of that quality to this show, set to the background it has been set in, and with this Star Wars universe, it has the potential to be really, really, really awesome. And I am really looking forward to this show. And I think it's the one thing I'm looking forward to the most, especially since that past intrigues me a lot. I do hope she has she will tone down the humor a bit, but she did write a lot of Russian Doll, and the writing on that show was actually brilliant. So I have high hopes for this show.
Outstanding, sir. It is clear to see that this is your favorite Disney Plus Star Wars project, and rightfully so. This really sounds really intriguing, really mysterious. It sounds like frankly, there's a possibility for violence. Exploration of what it's like to be a part of a religious minority. So you might have the Sith Master and the Acolyte, as he or she might be called, sort of practicing their faith in a small enclave. Yeah, a lot of potential here, and I'm anxious to dive into it. The Grandmaster just gave us his take, and thank you for filling us in on the extra information, the behind the scenes. I want to turn to our next champion to sound off on The Acolyte, ShadowBiz. Please give us your impressions of this show and what you think Disney can do to really pull off this log line, to really bring it to fruition and deliver on the promise of the premise.
Well, it's definitely going to be interesting. It already screams like dark side, obviously, like The Acolyte, kind of like a dark, kind of extremist, kind of cultish show. So yeah, it sounds awesome already. But the thing is, so it's meant to be 100 years before the events in the prequels, right? Is that what I'm getting?
I believe this takes place 80 years before the ascension of Emperor Palpatine. But Max, you can keep us honest here.
That's
just
right.
Got the thumbs up. We're good to go.
All right. Okay. Cool. So it'll be interesting then. That I guess we'll see possibly Darth Plagueis, because he was the mentor of Palpatine. So that they could do a lot there. From a female perspective, what they're doing there, that keeps things fresh as well. Because this is really bad, but I remember in the Clone Wars, I think it was the Clone Wars, that we already have seen a female dark side user. She's a bald-headed alien. I don't remember her name, but she's got lightsabers as well. Max, exactly her. So yeah, I liked her in the show. So I'm not going to say too much more about it, but I'll see what others' opinions are on this.
All right. Thank you, sir. Next, I want to turn to our resident expert on Star Wars, representing for the flavor and the colors in the blue T-shirt. I need you, Max, to paint a picture for us and the audience at Sakaar. What does the High Republic look like? I mean, it's not everybody with a bunch of blunts. I mean, what's going on? What does the Renaissance of the Jedi look like?
This was the prime time. This was after the Republic had settled a lot of the West, and it was in the time where, well, the Outer Rims, obviously. It was in this time where they had started to pull everyone into this gigantic Senate, and everything was working together, and the planets were working together. But it was before you had these disagreements with the Trade Federation or the Techno Union. It was before you started having this fall apart stuff that was actually the result of the involvement of the Sith. And I think what we're really looking at with this show is going to be almost a whodunit Clue type thing, where you're going to see maybe multiple women who could be the person that you're looking at as the possible acolyte of reference. And I do like Biz's idea of, and I had thought of this as well, the idea that Plagueis, this is his time. He's the guy who had learned to defeat death, and this is only 81 years before Palpatine took over as the Emperor. So this clearly, with the extended lifespan of Force users, should be within his time frame. So I think we're going to see a very questionable who is the one who's actually working for him. I think we're going to get a lot of people in cloaks where you don't get to see who the person is, and you're going to see a lot of people acting in sketchy ways as you try to solve the situation for yourself.
That's right. We're billing this as a mystery thriller on Disney's part. So I'm completely ready for the Acolyte. I'm ready for intrigue. I'm ready for people in cloaks. I'm ready for expert use of lightsabers. I'm ready for secret meetings and shadows and all that kind of good stuff there. So thank you for that answer, Max. I'm going to take this opportunity to segue to a champion who has been quiet, who has the quiet strength and dignity that all champions are known for, but he embodies. Taylor, 1 to 10, right? And you can turn the dial up to 11. How are you feeling about the Acolyte?
I'm always on 11. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm like, a lot of you guys, I don't know a whole lot about this period in Star Wars history, and I'm really anxious to see it, to see what the universe looked like. I want to see the Jedi at the peak of their power, and I'm very curious about this being told sort of from a Sith point of view. I mean, we got a little bit of that in the other trilogies, at least in the prequel trilogy and the sequel trilogy. But I think this is going to go deeper into that. I mean, what do the Sith believe? Because, we all know the best villains don't think they're villains. They think they're actually on the right side. So I'd like to see the birth of this belief system on the dark side. And I foresee this being, it's in its infancy, but it's going to immediately start looking for those seams, those cracks in the Republic that it can exploit in order to bring it down. And I'm very interested to see how they do that.
Taylor, are you sensing that even though this may be peak Jedi, peak Republic, that the only way the Sith would be able to sort of infiltrate this is if we had a little bit of decadence going on with the Jedi? Do we think they're not watching all of the angles? They're not looking at these ancient texts? They may be marginalizing or being dismissive of the Sith religion?
I think there's a very good chance of seeing some of that. I mean, we've all seen it before. I mean, most Sith were Jedi at one point, or at least a lot of them were. I think, the old line, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and the Jedi are about as absolute power as you can get in terms of their abilities and their superiority over the average person. So I think that's what the Sith are going to try to look for, try to create, try to exploit. And I may be completely wrong because, like I said, I know nothing about this period, but just from what I've heard, I think that's the way they're going.
Outstanding, sir. ShadowBiz.
Yeah, I would just like to add to that. It's obvious that the Jedi aren't all like powerful, all knowing, because like, I mean, how did Emperor Palpatine get to where he is at that point? Like even Yoda was like a little bit hazy. He's like, oh, I sense something. I'm on drugs. Like there's something out there. But like that didn't really do much at all. Like I mean, they were very complacent. I was like, what? I mean, like how did that happen? Like this whole like giant evil force, but like didn't really do much.
He was the one with the script.
Yeah.
All right, Max, you had your hand up?
Yes, there were some pretty serious things going on in Clone Wars. No, Rebels, actually. Sorry. Rebels, where they found a Jedi temple that had something that showed some of the earlier versions of the Force, where it had an elder and then two siblings. One was a dark side and one was a light side. It was quite obvious that one was clearly a Sith, whereas the female had the owl on her shoulder, which ended up being the bird of Ahsoka. There's my plug for Ahsoka again. And it was quite an interesting dynamic to see that this was kind of the opposite side of the same coin, a very easy path for someone to take. And I think the biggest separation between them is the Sith don't feel like their emotions are a weakness, where the Jedi do. And the recurring theme of the recent generation of Star Wars, and perhaps the entire series in general, is that the gray area in between is where life is lived. And when you create a force of good, you leave a vacuum for a force of evil. So I think what they're really aiming at there is the idea that the middle ground is where you should be. You create your own weakness by the hubris of trying to be the ultimate good.
Understood. Guys, great talk on the Acolyte. It's so good to see that there's this huge level of excitement for this particular series. Again, I know I'm really looking forward to it. And I think that you gentlemen might have changed my mind and sort of put it above Andor as one of the series that I'm the most excited about. But want to hear from our last champion on this particular subject, our producer, Stanton. Just tell us all the good things.
You guys have me really thinking about just the style of this show, really talking about people walking around in hooded cloaks and this intrigue, and I've almost got this old world goth, like Jack the Ripper type of mysterious environment where, there's a lot of darkness brewing. There's, a lot of sinister type of actions and mysteries going on. And I think that maybe, corruption and purposeful corruption where you're sowing division, you're trying to break down a society that appears to be at its peak. And I'm really curious to see how that is started. I also think, unlike some of the other shows that we have coming, like Ahsoka, like Rangers, or even like Obi-Wan, that even though those aren't set in the same time periods, they're set in familiar time periods. This one is their first test. This is an answer to fans, I believe, who are looking for, more lore to where Star Wars began, what its roots are. And I think this is the first test into getting into that. I'm not only interested in what the show is, but what it means for the future, and if we're going to get into, Old Republic and all types of other things from Star Wars history that we haven't even touched on yet, but this is their first attempt at doing so. So I'm really excited.
Outstanding. Great to hear from all the champions on this. I want to solicit final comments on the Acolyte before we tackle our final topic here on Star Wars DID.
One thing I'm also excited for, we get peak Yoda.
Peak Yoda?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yoda in his prime.
You think he's going to be any taller?
No. But he's going to be kicking ass.
Yeah. Indeed. So, like I said, Disney, they came to win. They came to play and they came to win. Impressive slate, but there's still more. Honestly, guys, if you aren't super psyched based on the conversation you're hearing in the arena with the champions, I don't know what to say at this particular point, but we still have one more topic to go through. That's right. Popularly voted at Sakaar, in addition to what we've already discussed with Andor and Rangers of the New Republic and the Acolyte, feature film side of Disney is not to be ignored. Always a force to be reckoned. And I, for one, am so glad to hear that those guys are not sort of doing sort of a pandemic style maneuvers and saying, oh, day and date, you're going to get this on streaming and you're also going to get it in the theater. No, Disney's committed to the theater, guys, committed to the theater experience. And the last topic that we have that was voted on by the crew at Sakaar is Rogue Squadron.